So I want to say a little bit about what I did prior to going to Ukraine and after we ended our programming in Russia. So one of the things that I was given an opportunity of after being engaged on judicial reforms on a massive scale in Russia was to work on a very unique global initiative. And this is something that USAID was interested in back then, was not only country-specific experience, but providing opportunities for different countries to share experience across rule of law issues. And I was asked to design an international women's legal rights initiative. Now, you may ask why a man would be involved in international women's rights issues. And I was surprised they chose me to lead this initiative. But one of the things I learned immediately was the importance of engaging men in promoting women's legal rights, which are human rights, which is all linked to all the key elements of the rule of law, which is what we're talking about. So I was asked by USAID to identify missions around the world that would like to buy into this, to like to be a part of this women's rights initiative. And I found 6 missions around the world. And fortunately for me, they were geographically diverse. So we had a program in Guatemala, in Central America, program in Albania. We also had 4 programs in Africa, in Benin, Rwanda, Madagascar, and Mozambique. Now, you would say on its face that these countries on 3 different continents would be very different. But when we did our baseline surveys, we did our needs assessments, we found that there was some similarity between these different countries on different continents with different traditions. And one of the common themes was the importance of engaging women in decision-making, but also, as I said, engaging men in these processes. Each of these countries had issues related to domestic violence. Each of these countries had problems related to respecting women's rights in terms of family issues, guardianship. I also talked earlier about inheritance rights. So we found this similarity between these different countries. And one of the things that I was able to do was bring these representatives of each of these countries together to talk about some common experiences. And one of the things that resulted from this, and one of the issues we focused on, was anti-trafficking. So the Albanians developed an excellent anti-trafficking law. And the people in Benin wanted to develop something very similar, right? So they took it and they worked on it, and they developed a anti-trafficking law in Benin based on the experience from Albania. Another example, women were limited in their rights in the workplace in Guatemala and in Madagascar. For example, in Guatemala, women were not allowed to work without their male spouse permission in certain circumstances. In Madagascar, women were not allowed to work the night shift. So I had these advocates for change in both Guatemala and Madagascar. They're sharing experiences, how they amended the labor code to allow for women to have full access to employment. And this was one of the most incredible exchanges I've ever seen. Another issue is related to family law, and I talked about the issue of inheritance and guardianship rights. So we worked with the Ministry of Justice in Albania to change the code to give women equal access to guardianship and inheritance issues. That same law was part of a change in Mozambique. So having this cross-fertilization in terms of sharing practices,
right,
approaches and methodologies really did work. And I really appreciate that opportunity. And that is something I took with me going forward in terms of looking at where there are success stories, where certain rule of law reforms were successful, and how that can be applied elsewhere, and giving people an opportunity to think outside of what their country context is, but to look to see where maybe this has been done somewhere else and it has been successful, and how can I approach that? And as part of this is providing this opportunity for people to exchange, providing that information and those resources on these best practices and lessons learned across different jurisdictions.
Thank you for bringing that up, because one of the themes that we're talking about in this series of discussions is what it's like to live without the rule of law or without full recognition of your rights. Mm-hmm. And women's rights, obviously, is a huge part of that. And so thank you for sharing that